Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatics Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
Welcome back to another episode of Wisco Fanatics Friday night Packer episode. Tyler, myself, Bryant are here. Simon will be joining shortly. He got stuck in his igloo apparently. But we're going to recap the last game of the season. It kind of stings the way that it ended, but I am proud of them. I don't want to do that silver lining stuff because I don't really live my life by that. But you know, we're gonna find the positives and the ways to improve for next year, so we can make another run at the Lombardi, right? Yep. In my opinion, I think I have 3 of the 4 major reasons why we lost as my topics. So hopefully when we get to my 3, we can have some discussions, maybe talk about ways to improve on it going into next year, improve on it through free agency, through the draft. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Give some context in this episode. But Tyler, Brian, how we doing, boys?
Pretty good. You know, I do something where I kind of like shut up. I didn't watch much for football or anything this week or really read much. Obviously, I caught the news of us, firing Perry and some of the people we're interviewing and signing the kicker and all that. But I kind of do a decompression where I just kind of shut everything off for like a week just to kind of like, because, I love the Packers. So when the season ends and I feel like it could have continued, we all want that Lombardi so badly. So I just do myself a favor and I kind of decompress. So it was a good week. The week went by pretty quickly. Have a good, weekend coming up. So went skating once. That was fun. So other than that, it was a pretty good week.
Nice.
Roller skating?
No, ice skating.
Still got
the kids, the first time they ever skated, and surprisingly, they did decently.
Okay. So I have this personal feeling because I've never ice skated. Is it just like rollerblading?
No.
I would compare it more to skiing. If you've ever skied.
Nope.
You have never ice skated?
No.
Are you lying to me right now?
No.
Why did I not know that about you? You never came.
Not as good of a friend as you thought you were.
You never came and played hockey with us on the river?
I think I played hockey, but I was just in like boots and just sliding around in boots.
Oh my god, that is wild.
No, I never had ice
skating. I didn't know that.
Get some skates on this man. I hadn't skated in about 10 years, and I'll say I did well. I didn't fall once. I already got back to being able to kind of stop where, you throw the ice and stuff like that and all that stuff. So I didn't fall.
I'll say this. A1, great rollerblader over here.
You would be fine.
I believe you. I didn't ice skate for a long time until I met my girlfriend. And then her, myself, and my son, we all went by Lambeau at the Titletown, and we went ice skating. And I was super nervous. I was like, bro, I haven't done this in so long. I'm going to embarrass myself. There's a lot of people around here. This is going to be horrible. But I got on there, and I was just zipping around there, baby. It was awesome. But, Tyler, we're going to have to get the families together, man, and go out there, dude. It's awesome. They have hot chocolate. It's a whole thing, dude. It's beautiful out there. They have a big football field. It's awesome.
I had to make sure I got my Beat Michigan State button visible. All right. So I'm glad you mentioned the draft as something that we're going to talk about with potentially ways the team can improve for 2 reasons. One, I leave Monday for the Senior Bowl, which I'm very excited for. Really looking forward to it. If anybody's watching has any questions that they're interested in about any of the players at the Senior Bowl, if you've done some research and looking at some of the people that are going to be there, and you have questions you are interested in asking, send them to the show page. I can pull aside players after each practice every day and get 10 minutes. So, that's stuff I can pass along if there's people that you're interested in hearing from. And then secondly, for the 2024 season, this is going to start after the draft. We are going to move the Friday night Green Bay Packers shows to Tuesday nights. We haven't set an exact time of what time we're going to be starting. But we are going to move from Friday nights to Tuesday nights. That's going to be a permanent thing after the draft. So everything in our offseason plans is still going to be on Friday nights up until the draft, which we usually stream the first two nights. So that'll be a Thursday and a Friday night. But the Friday night of the NFL draft weekend, That's going to be our last Friday night, and then we're going to move to Tuesdays so that we're a little bit earlier in the week and we get our thoughts out on the games a little bit earlier, and then we can use some of the content for throughout the week. And we're still going to do play breakdowns, so that'll still happen throughout the week. But yeah, we just want to make sure we're getting our content out there in a timely fashion that people want to consume it and give people a little bit longer to consume the content. So that'll be after the draft. But up until then, we're still going to be doing Fridays. So we're gonna talk about the 49ers game. We're gonna go through it, and then we're gonna lay out some of our plans for some shows for the off season. But let's start with some stars. So Bryant has the number one star of the game.
Yeah, and I went with Aaron Jones. I thought once again he was probably our best player on the field. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jordan Love was playing well until kind of wheels fell off towards the late in the game, which we'll talk about later. But Aaron Jones, I felt like he should have got the ball more, to be honest. So had the 108 yards on 18 carries. Now, granted, one of them was a 53-yarder, and the other that's like a 3.2-yard average. But either way, good things seems to happen when we get the ball in that guy's hands. And unfortunately, we missed a couple throws to him there and some other things. But overall, strong game by him. And I at this point, with those last 5 games he had, or 6 games or whatever it was, I don't know how he's not back on this team next year, to be honest.
He needs to be back. I think we're in Yoli said hello and go back, go always. I think they're in a situation where it's going to be, they're going to choose Aaron Jones over the backup again.
Yep.
Don't
get me wrong. We'll talk about it during the draft. I think they should get someone, but I do think Aaron Jones needs to be on this team next year.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go for 2 and 3. I'm going to cover for Simon. We went with Romeo Doubs and then Jair Alexander. Romeo Doubs was just massive on third downs. We broke down some of the plays, and Romeo Doubs just continued to come up clutch on third downs, which was one of the traits that I really admired about him coming out of the draft. And it showed up on Saturday night. And then we went with Jair Alexander for the other one. Didn't hear Jair Alexander's name a lot on Saturday night, which is one of those things where it's like, if you don't hear your cornerback's name, that's a good thing. Just like an offensive lineman, if you don't hear their name and number, that's a good thing. Jair Alexander was only targeted 3 times on Saturday night. He allowed 2 receptions for 12 yards.
That makes sense.
Jair was pretty damn locked down on Saturday night. So that's that. And then Jake has our underrated performer.
I have some thoughts on Jair for some people, but I'll save that for some off-season.
I have thoughts on people who have thoughts on Jair.
Did you guys hear we traded him and hired?
How long you guys want to make this episode? we could go in, bro.
Add another 69 minutes of the show to talk to people who think trading Jair is a good idea.
So for UP, I picked a man that I really feel like is underappreciated overall. And this game, when he was facing Nick Bosa, was his 7th game against a edge rusher that was top 10 in pressures this year. So he faced 7 of the top 10, and he really has held up. I picked Zach Tom. He gave up 2 pressures, obviously facing a monster front 4. They only have to rush 4 because that front 7 or front 4 is so good. But Zach Tom, honestly, he might be a top 3 right tackle in the NFL. I feel comfortable saying that. I honestly do. Him, I mean, Sewell. Who else is there?
Sewell's really good, yeah.
I think that's a really good pick because I feel like the game really changed once he went out. I feel like
I agree with that as well.
It did,
yeah.
Like, look at the drives after he went out. Like, what happened?
Well, for a long time, we always had the strong left side of the line, right? And when we did a running play, it went to the left. And that was just basically how it worked because our 2 best were over there. Now I feel like we run them more to the right side. And that's kind of how it works. Look at the Aaron Jones 53-yarder. What way did that go? That went to the right. And that's kind of where the things open up. And Zach Tom is a big catalyst for that. So you guys want to talk about, Jordan Love getting an extension, Rashawn Gary getting an extension. The next big one that's going to be getting one in the next couple of years is Zach Tom. He's going to be really, really important.
The better, honestly.
Yeah, right. He's going to be important to lock down because he's young and he's very good.
If we can get him on like an Elton Jenkins type contract, that'd be perfect.
Oh,
absolutely.
I got one more thing before we move on. Everybody always talks about how the Packers get quarterbacks, right? And we do. And I'm not trying to take that for granted. I'm not saying this to overlook that because it's amazing. It's awesome. We develop wide receivers. we develop running backs, we develop tight ends, and we develop offensive linemen. So really, at the end of the day, you can just say that the Packers develop offense. If you really wanted to just say it that way.
That's fair.
Because we develop everything. We're always good on the line. We always have one or two good wide receivers. I mean,
if you think about it too, like when guys have left from the Packers offense and what they've done after that, it's pretty quiet. Like, I mean, like Corey Lindsey was great for the Chargers, but I mean, you look at other guys who were on the Packers and great and then left and were
TJ Lang, Josh Sitton,
Greg Jennings,
James
Javon Walker,
Randall
Cobb.
Yeah, I mean, the list just goes on, honestly. The Packers are an offensive factory, dude.
Geronimo Allison.
You have the opposite, though. I mean, like, look at someone like Amari Rodgers. He became a Pro Bowler when he left the Packers.
Dude, he has scored a touchdown in his first game. And
I see what you're doing there, man. I'm not falling for it today.
Well played. All right, let's move into the offense. Bryant, how are the wide receivers do?
It was Dobbs had a really strong, great game and good touchdown by Melton and good job drawing the pass interference. But unfortunately, Wicks, Watson, and to a certain degree, Reed really couldn't get much going. I'll give Reed credit because even during our play breakdowns, we've seen how his motion just changes the defense is what they're trying to do. And he helped create big plays like that. But it was really disappointing to see Wicks and Watson really not do any, like be non-factors in this game. Yeah. We needed one of them to make some big plays, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But overall, like as a year as a whole, I'm very, very excited about this group. Like we hit on some picks, and we everyone that's showing their mock drafts now and showing a wide receiver in the second round, that's not happening. Like I'd be very surprised if we did that. It's because we felt really good about our first 4 picks and hit exactly what we wanted to need, and now we're just drafting best player available.
That I can see.
That's fair.
I wouldn't be honestly. I think the Packers' first round pick is probably going to be on the line. And I'm not going to say if it's going to be offense or defense, but I think it's going to be on the line.
And I also think the chances of us actually picking 5 players in the top 100 is very slim.
Very low, in my opinion. I think the Packers are going to try to move up from 25, in my opinion.
And if they don't move up from 25, I think they move up earlier in the second.
Yeah.
So,
alrighty. Looking at the rookie tight ends, Musgrave was still somewhat limited. He played 19 snaps. He did catch 3 of 4 targets for 2 first downs, so he was still impactful in limited plays. Tucker Kraft, he played 57 snaps. He caught 3 of 6 targets for only 9 yards, but did have a touchdown. He struggled with Bosa, but it's hard to hold that against him. He's a rookie going against Defensive Player of the Year. That's a tough task, tall task. And then Ben Sims played 10 snaps, mostly blocking. He caught his only target for 4 yards. I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers took a mid-round tight end to maybe see if they can hit on something that, just having a third guy to be able to rotate another guy in with Kraft and Musgrave and have 2 tight ends on the field often and really be able to move the ball that way if they can find another guy similar to Tucker Kraft, in my opinion. 2 Tucker Crafts would be cool.
I would love 2 Tucker Crafts. Double the poems.
Definitely lower on the priority list, but yeah, like you can't go wrong with having another one because they're not going to have like a huge contribution or anything. But we need to get rid. I think it's time to get rid of DeGuara. I don't know if you guys went back and watched that 53-yard run by Aaron Jones, but DeGuara was doing nothing but running around in circles.
Yeah, he looked lost on a couple of plays, and he's a free agent, so I think they're just going to let him walk.
Yeah, see you later. Thank you for your service.
Yep. Thanks for making a handful of good blocks here and there and allowing a field goal to get blocked too. Looking at the passing game distribution, Love threw 33 passes to 10 different players. And I will say I believe the weather and San Francisco being pretty easily the best defense that he's faced be the reason for the low efficiency.
I agree.
And again, I'll say this as far as the distribution goes. Actually, I'm going to save it for Love. I'm going to save it for the Love part. Behind the line of scrimmage, Love was 7 for 10. From 0 to 9, he was 9 of 12. 10 to 19, that's the area that he had been kind of going nuts for the last 4 or 5 weeks. He was 3 for 7. I think that was the biggest opportunity for Love to have had a better game. And then 20 plus, he was still 2 for 4. So not bad as far as deep passes go. Simon has the offensive line, so we'll come back to that. Bryant, how did the running game look?
I look good. We kind of covered it in the stars. Aaron Jones had the 108 carries on 18, or 108 yards.
108 yards. 108 carries is excessive.
I wish he had that many. The reason we lost is because he didn't hit that 20 carry mark. So we're like undefeated when he gets 20 carries, right? So he had that 18 carries. But for me, what killed me was our running game disappeared in the fourth, and I don't think it's because of Aaron Jones. He had 2 carries in the fourth quarter, one of them going for 53 yards. So this is what kills me on that final drive is we had Aaron Jones go for 53. Immediately after, Wilson had that run for like 9 yards or whatever it ended up being. And then we decide to throw on first down. And then we run for 1 yard on second down. And then it's 3rd and 9. We have to throw again. And it kind of goes back to that old adage, we tried to get cute. Instead of just we had 62 rushing yards in 2 plays. We decided to go away from that. Got cute, threw it on first down, resulted in a negative, no gain. Then we run it for 1 yard, kind of like I said, a lot of times we'll throw on first down, run in the 3rd and long. Exactly what happened there. And unfortunately, with the weather and how shaky our kicker's been, I know Matt LaFleur wishes he had those 3 calls back because to me, there's no way you don't run it on first down there and just see what happens. In my opinion, run it on first, second, and third, kill the time, and hopefully you gain 6, 7 of those yards, and you're looking at a 35-yard field goal, something like that. But to have only 2 carries for Aaron Jones in the fourth quarter and 3 really from late in the third to the rest of the game is just kind of inexcusable.
Well, and the thing with it too is I don't remember this drive specifically if it was regular pass or not, but that first or second down, if you're going to throw the ball in either of those situations, use play action because San Francisco's playing you to run.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a screen pass to Tucker Kraft
right.
for like 0 yards, and it's just like
really high percentage, something to keep the clock moving. And potentially give Love a little bit extra time to throw, like if you have him on a bootleg or something like that, give him a little bit of extra time.
But yeah, I just feed what's working there. Just run Wilson and Aaron Jones there is my thought on first down and see what happens. They just gash him for 62 yards on 2 plays. Like, I get the idea of wanting to run play action after that, and I'd have to go back and look at the play and see if it was actually play action or if it was a quick, like maybe it was a run play called and maybe Love checked out of that and went to that throw to Tucker Kraft, and we'll never know that, right? But to me, you just got to keep pounding the ball there.
Jake's going to talk about the red zone offense. While he's doing that, I'll look and see if I can find it. See what it looked like before.
All right, so I'm just going to start this by a quote that I got from Jordan Love. And a lot of losses to the 49ers, you really can look back and point to the missed opportunities that we've had in those games specifically. And you can go back and do that versus any team, but really the 49ers are like the monkey on our back, right? That's the monkey we have to get off our back, I feel like, to get over the hump. And Jordan Love was quoted saying, "We obviously didn't do a good enough job in the red zone, didn't come away with enough points down there. We started getting going a little bit better in the second half, things like that, but it was a little too late." Oh, he said a little too late. And I agree with that. So the first drive that gets into the red zone, 1st and 10 at the 13, Jones goes -2. 2nd and 12 at the 15, Love hits Ben Sims for 4 yards. 3rd and 8 at the 11, Love incomplete pass to Dobbs, 29-yard field goal. That's a win for the 49ers, in my opinion. 2nd and 10 at 23, Jones goes for 9. All right, we're cooking. I'm feeling like we're going to get in the end zone. Packers are playing good defense. 3rd and 1 at the 14, Jones gets no gain. And then the refs decided to join the party because 4th and 1 at the 14, Jordan Love gets marked short.
I'll tell you also on that 3rd down, Jones got a half a yard if you watch where he falls.
Yeah.
Like if you go watch the broadcast, he falls between their stupid 2 little laser things, and then they mark it back where the ball was spotted.
Yep. So get 0 points. So we only have 3 points and 2 possessions in the red zone so far. So then the 3rd possession, 1st and goal at the 9. We run Jones again for no gain. 2nd and goal at the 9. Love to Jones, -2 yards again. 3rd and 11 at the 11. Love incomplete to Tucker Kraft. We settle for our second 29-yard field goal. And at this point, you're kind of feeling like, We had the dropped pick six, which 100% would have been a pick six. We're struggling in the red zone. It's like, are we going to be able to hang on at this point, right? That's kind of the mindset of everybody. And now we get to this one. This red zone trip was set up by a big PI by Bo Melton, so great job by him. 3rd and 15 at the 40. He gets 41 yards on the PI. The next play after that, 1st and 10 at the San Francisco 19. Love hits Melton on a beautiful pass. The Packers wide receivers like to bobble them, and then the corners in the back of the end zone and the sidelines, and they make you go, oh.
Making me nervous.
They end up catching it, right? So that was a great one. Good throw, good catch, good route, good play call. Everything was great on that one, right? So then the final trip that hits the red zone, 1st and 10 at the 20. We run Jones, no gain. Then we have 2nd and 10 at the 20. Love with an incredible throw to Romeo Doubs. Us three broke that play down. That was a great throw, great catch, great route. That was another one of those plays where I was like, that was perfectly ran. And Love did a great job playing off schedule and still remaining on time. So if you're looking for that play breakdown, go check that out on the page.
Yep.
1st and goal at the 5. We run Jones. We get 3 yards. 2nd and goal at the 2. Love finds Tucker Kraft for another touchdown. So we get our red zone. We get our 2 red zone touchdowns. If they would have had better execution in the first half, they're winning this game. And we're talking about a game in Detroit, which I'm going to say it. I felt it. I said to you guys before, I was saying it all week at work last week. If we go into Detroit, we are going to slap the hell out of them. I really think that they held some shit back on Thanksgiving.
I said what I said, that I thought whoever was going to win the Packers 49ers game was going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with that too, but
I don't think if we get in that dome with the way our offense is playing that they would have slowed us down. I don't think there was any chance in hell. The only way they were beating us is if they would have outscored us and had the ball last in that game.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh, that's fair.
And I don't, like we kind of talked about off air. I don't want to blame the rest, but they played a major part in this game because the 2 really blatant missed calls that is a first down. And I don't know why honestly, I don't get why Matt LaFleur rushed the sneak on 4th down, because I felt like we got it. It would have been nitpicky, but you could have certainly, we shouldn't have had to sneak for what seemed like a full yard plus. And then I don't know how you missed that intentional grounding and then just say, nope, he was in the pocket or he was outside the tackle box. He dropped straight back, took 1 step right, took a step backwards, and threw the ball way out of bounds to no one. And we literally I'm pretty sure Jordan Love got flagged for that earlier in the year to miss that.
The Denver game, if I'm not mistaken, that feels like the one.
It was something like that. And then, there was an obvious block in the back on that touchdown run too, but hey, whatever. Savage could have made the tackle. So, but those 2 huge plays by the refs, likely, we can't say Carlson was going to 100% make the field goal, but we don't know what happens the rest of that drive if we get in the end zone there. And then on the the intentional grounding, it would have been a huge loss. I don't know what happened the rest of that drive because I think that was either 1st or 2nd down, but they're still way behind the sticks. They're looking at either 2nd or 3rd and 18 or 19 at that point, and they scored on that drive. So
they got a field goal. So, you're looking at those 2 drives alone.
The difference of the game.
And you're looking at a potential 6 to 10 point swing in a game the Packers lost by 3. So I get what you're saying. I don't
want to blame the rest because we did have our opportunities. You got to catch a pick 6. You have to catch the other interception options we had. You had Jordan Love missing 2 really easy throws, both that resulted in, one in an interception, one in a punt. It hurts when you made those mistakes and you could have still probably won the game if it wasn't influenced by something you cannot control.
All right.
Very true.
Especially against the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
So I went back and looked that play after the big Jones run and the Emmanuel Wilson hurdle. The Packers did run play action on 1st down. And I think this was possibly a check by Jordan Love to change this to a play action instead of a run. The 49ers had 7 or 8 guys on the line of scrimmage. So I think Jordan Love might have checked to a play action, looking at a front that looks like they're ready to stop the run. Mm-hmm. So you play action, look to get somebody open. But the 49ers dropped all but 4 into coverage. So they had 7 in coverage. and nobody was open.
So he'd love. I mean, I don't know if LaFleur could tell that Love's going to struggle with that play or anything, but maybe if there's any indecision or any like concern at that point, pop a timeout. That's such a crucial, critical point in the game. If we score a touchdown there, we win that game. They are not catching us.
Let me throw this out there. So this play does end up being completed to Tucker Kraft. It's a check down, and Kraft is completed, but he's tackled basically immediately by Fred Warner. But let me say this, and I get that, you know, you're looking at it and you're trying to decipher what the defense is going to do. There needs to be credit given to San Francisco for their defensive play calling in that situation.
That's fair.
Okay. So I'm going to jump to third down offense. The Packers, overall, this might have actually been one of the things they were the best at the entire season. Third down offense, they were 7 for 13, 53.8%. My goal for them on the season was 40%. They well exceeded that, up and including the playoff games. So very happy to see that. They were 4 for 7, 57% in the first half. They were 0 for 1 on fourth down, which is that bad spot. Their average distance was 5.3 yards. Second half, they were 3 for 6. They started 2 for 2, and the second one had to be challenged. So another bad spot that Matt LaFleur threw a challenge flag and then was overturned.
Yeah, he shouldn't have had to challenge that either. But...
I agree. He should not have had to challenge that. Then, so after that, the Packers started 2 for 2 on third downs in the second half. There was one that was a tipped ball that was an interception, an incompletion, and an incompletion on 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 9. And then after that 3rd and 9 was the missed field goal, and then the Packers picked up their last third down, which was a 3rd and 2 to Luke Musgrave. So the Packers were 50% in the second half, an average of 4.3 yards. So they were still decent on third downs. It's just the ones that they didn't convert were later in the game at the crucial times. And that's what separates the 1 seed from the 7 seed is execution later in the games. And I've said this to you guys. I've said this to coworkers, people that I've talked to about the game. I believe the Packers were the better team for about 53 minutes, but they play 60. So, Bryant, how did you feel about special teams?
I kind of like against the Dallas game, you know, there were some bad plays, but I started with a positive wheeling. This time I can't start with the good plays because the negative play, it finally came to a head. We've been saying it for weeks. It's going to eventually bite us, and we can't blame the loss on Carlson, but I can say that we should have been in overtime. I mean, as an NFL kicker, you cannot be 4 of 9 between 41 and 49 yards. I'm sorry. That's where the majority. Fine from 50. If he was 50 plus, he was 4 from 9. That's something we can deal with. Those are long kicks. But 41 to 49, you have got to be 70, 80%, like probably 80% minimum to really stick as a job. And just to miss that kick, it's just kind of like rearing its ugly head like it did all year. And then it finally really, the most crucial time, he misses it, right? You know, positive plays on, you know, by the block by Wooden. Great job. He'll really kind of holding us and not letting him double up there. Really good return by Nixon. You know, you wish
How many heart attacks did you have when that ball got fumbled? I had several heart attacks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I see it's one of those ones you see coming, too, because you see him coming up from behind, and you're just like, Nixon, he's there. Great hustle by
right on the arm.
Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson has been underappreciated for his performance on special teams all year. Yep. He's made several really good plays on special teams and stepped in as a linebacker when needed. Candidate. So he'd be someone I would like us to bring back.
He probably pretty cheap, too.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, I'm glad. I will say this. I have a couple thoughts. I think Rich Bisaccia needs to step back, as he doesn't need to be assistant head coach. He needs to only focus on special teams. I don't know that they probably didn't announce that. I don't know if they would ever announce that, or, you know, LaFleur just tell him, hey, take a step back. But we cannot be in bottom 5 in the special teams again when we're paying this dude a crap ton, and we brought him in and we continue to let him sign who we want. And then I like the fact that we pretty much immediately signed a competition for Carlson, because this doesn't let him relax during the offseason. Right. This shows him, like, there's someone on your heels nipping. He's probably got the step up because we drafted him, and we drafted him for a reason. But honestly, if you go back and look at his college, that's awesome. But are you saying NFL-wise or for the Packers? But
I would say he's probably talking about the Packers.
Yeah, either way.
Simon popped in just to tell us that Eric Wilson was the highest graded special teamer last year. So
I'm glad we signed that kicker to bring in some competition. But honestly, I don't know how Carlson gets drafted. I get it because he has the legacy of his brother and stuff like that. But he
still has a leg. He has a big leg,
but his college numbers are not that good either. So
Simon said NFL wise. Damn.
Oh wow.
Good for him.
But Carlson he needs to kick 30 field goals a week or whatever he can do that, he won't injure himself, but he needs like 41 to 49. You need to be in the 80% plus. Yeah. So unfortunately it came back and bit us at the most. And like to me, I kind of felt it coming. Like as soon that he missed that kick, I just slouched down my chair and I was like, we're going to lose now. Like I felt like I did not like it completely changed my demeanor of the game, what was going to happen. And like completely crushed my thoughts and my processes there. And we can talk about Barry, and we'll do that here in a minute on that last drive when you guys talk about defense or, red zone defense or anything we talk about. But, I feel like it deflated kind of deflated the balloon a little bit. And I don't know if that had an effect on the team or what.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll wait on the coaching aspect of it, but let's jump into defense, and we'll skip secondary, and Jake has rush defense.
All right, so this is number 3 on my list of importance why we lost this game. Christian McCaffrey, obviously we've all said it. He's the best running back in the league, best dual threat. I mean, this guy might be the best.
A serious consideration for MVP, in my opinion.
I agree with that as well.
I think he's more important to the 49ers than Brock Purdy.
Outside of quarterback, he might be the best offensive player in the league. Really, you can make that argument.
You can certainly make the argument.
He had 17 carries, 98 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. Obviously, put the dagger in all of our hearts. He had the long 39-yarder as well. Purdy had 6 for 14, and Jawan Jennings had that one end around that went for -1 yards. So all total, that's 24 carries for 111 yards. Not that bad, honestly, when you're thinking about facing the 49ers and their juggernaut offense, right? But the thing that really gets me is the 7 missed tackles in just run defense. And when you're thinking about Brock Purdy, you think he's shaking people and breaking tackles? Or you think that's going to be Christian McCaffrey? So really, when you think about it, 7 missed tackles on 17 carries is a terrible percentage. That absolutely cannot happen. The missed tackles, Wyatt with 2 of them. Owens, Gary, Savage, Clark, and Smith all had 1 apiece. And that's just it's just the way it is. If this defense is going to turn a corner next year, they have to wrap up. They have to tackle, obviously. If I didn't make that point clear enough last week, I don't know what to tell you. And, I'll get into third down here in a sec, but Jesus.
I mean, we talked about being willing to give Savage like a 1-year prove-it deal. If there's a reason to give the devil's advocate, it would be for his tackling. Darnell Savage, I don't want to go so far as to put all pressure on him, but he kind of felt like the Packers' X factor defensively.
Yeah.
When Darnell Savage was at the top of his game, the Packers defense played really well. When guys were missing tackles, and Darnell Savage is one of those, that's when it felt like the defense struggled. And again, I'm not putting all of it on Darnell Savage.
We got the full Savage.
I feel like he's like the X factor.
We got the full Savage experience in 2 weeks. 1 week he picks 6, completely turns the game. The next game, where it's even a bigger stage, he drops a pick 6. He misses a major tackle, and then and then George Kittle smokes him. And that's going to happen that play, but that missed tackle. You can even excuse the missed tackle because CMC is going to make people miss. But when a ball hits you in the hands, you've got to catch it. He didn't even have to he wasn't even had to. It wasn't a running start. Brock Purdy threw that ball right to him almost.
He read it perfectly. He did everything but catch the ball. He baited him. He jumped it. He just did everything but catch the damn thing and finish it. Right? It's like a basketball player that makes a good move, whether that be a spin or a pump fake, and they get wide open and then they miss the layup. That's literally the analogy that I'm going to use. And I'm also going to use something that Brian talked about with kickers, where, we were talking about that all season, right? That eventually was going to bite us in the ass. it's almost like our safety room. We were kind of talking about that in training camp too, and it kind of bit us in the ass in this game too. So the weaknesses of this team are very apparent. I think, bolstering up the safety room is something that definitely needs to happen. And definitely some more competition for Anders. I'm willing to give him another year. I know that seems crazy to 90% of Packers Nation after they were, all letting their feelings out on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and everywhere, where I was going to ignore every single one of them on Saturday night. But you need to give him at least one more year. You can't
this is
everybody complains about coaches getting fired after 1 year. Oh my God, you only give them 1 year. Like, ooh. Why can't we have the same feeling for players?
We do this with every other position group where you have rookies. You expect improvement, as they grow. So, like, it shouldn't be any different with kicker. The difference is with other rookies who play offense and defense, they're not the only person that everybody's looking at when they're out on the field.
And you know what? It is really hard to kick in Green Bay, and that was a shit weather show. Everybody just talks about throwing the ball in that weather. It's very important to get the plant foot and get everything down perfectly timed. That was shit weather. That was hard to kick in. They missed a field goal too. Granted, it was blocked. I don't care. It shows up as a miss.
Yeah, it counts as a miss, yeah.
So I'm okay with going into the year with him, but if he continues the trend of the first 6 games he misses a kick every game, no. Like, I get that he's a rookie, but other rookies like tight end, think about how much Tucker Kraft and Musgrave are asked to do. Carlson's asked to do like 2 things: kick off and kick field goals. And yeah, I get it. It's a whole operation, but that's all he focuses on. So he's not going to get as much leeway in my mind. Yeah, bring him in, let him stay, and then unless this other kicker completely outperforms him in spring training and all that in preseason, then you might go that direction. But I'm okay with starting the season with Carlson, but I'm not okay with just sticking it out if he's starting to miss all these kicks.
As a rookie, I could understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Jake Moody, he was drafted in the 3rd round. He had his struggles too, and they alluded to it in the broadcast that he just didn't have to kick that often because 49ers just scored touchdowns all the time. Simon did bring up there was some bad snaps. That's a fact. I mean, it wasn't excuse all of them. Obviously, the one blocked extra point gets put on him, even though it was DeGuara that allowed it. But we'll talk about stuff like that when we get into some of the offseason stuff. Jake, pass rush.
Excuse me.
Nope.
So, pass rush, honestly, this is how I feel. I feel like, and I'm going to give you numbers in a second, but this is just my context. I feel like the Packers finally have good groundwork to build a pass rush group that could become elite. I feel like it took forever. And they were trying to plug in guys and draft this guy and sign this guy, and they were really just trying to figure it out. And I really feel like they finally have a good nucleus. Kenny Clark, obviously. We've all been talking about him. Wooden, I mean, you got Devontae Wyatt, who had a quiet, really good year, right? And
Carl
Brooks. I mean, you're talking about Gary, Preston Smith. I mean, they finally have a good group where I think they can build off of this in the draft.
And Hercules.
I mean, it feels good to finally be in a good spot.
Let me interject right here really quick, because you're talking all these guys that have all this potential.
Mm-hmm.
Can we acknowledge the fact that the Packers are bringing in a defensive coordinator by pointing out that a defensive coordinator has done well previously with good defenses who have good players on them? Can we stop just calling them products of their players? That's not the only reason that good defensive coordinators have good defenses and good statistics is because of the players. Some might, but when you're talking like number 1, top 5 defenses, that's not only players.
And the thing that really bothers me with that argument is, yeah, they have good players. That's not their fault that it's not his fault that the Rams decided to go get him Jalen Ramsey. It's not his fault that they decided to draft Aaron Donald and he turned into, one of the best stretch runs of any interior D lineman in NFL history. That's not his fault.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
Right. But his job is to put his players in the best position.
Right.
Which is what everybody complained that Barry didn't do, right? He didn't put our players in the best position to succeed. He didn't use this guy right. He didn't use this guy right. Didn't use this guy right. So now when you have a guy, and I'm not saying that Brandon Staley's my guy because he's not, but I wouldn't be upset with it. But now you have a guy, Brandon Staley, who is putting his guys in a position to succeed, and now you're going to use that against him when you were just bitching about a guy not doing it correctly.
And that's the thing. Like, Jake, we just talked about this with the Bucs. With the Bucs having a new coach come in, everybody's going to be unhappy because not everybody is going to be able to get their guy. So the people that do get their guy are going to be happy until the people that don't get their guy are unhappy, and then they make it the people who are happy that they got their guy make it their problem.
Well, you know what? For the last couple of weeks we've been dealing with everybody cry about Rasul Douglas. Guess what? He was getting his ass cooked last week. He really was. And I love Rasul Douglas. And I'm not trying to dog him right now because I really loved him as a Packer. He gave me a lot of good moments. I saw a lot of good moments live with him in a Packer uniform. But, bro, that trade had to happen.
Yep.
Do you not understand where we were at that point in time?
Yep.
You not understand that we were in a youth movement? Do you not understand that these guys had to look into the future? It's not about your feelings, okay?
Yep.
And when we get rid of A.J. Dillon, I'm sorry. I love A.J. Dillon. I really, truly do. He's a great guy. I love watching his content when he's playing his video games. He's funny. He's great. He's down to earth. He is Wisconsin through and through, right? But, bro, we are in the business of results. At the end of the day, people, we're not in the business of relationships. And, yeah, I'm sure he'll still have that connection and talk about how he's still the mayor of Door County. And that's fantastic. I love that for him. He can always be the mayor of Door County because Door County is awesome, okay? If you've never been there, please make a trip there. Bryant, seriously, you've probably never been there. It's fantastic up there, dude. It's beautiful in the summertime. But he doesn't do things well. Some things he doesn't do well that we need to happen, and especially with Aaron Jones getting older. He's going to be 30 years old next year. We need to have a guy that has that extra gear. He just doesn't have that. But it is what it is. We're not – oh, my God. If the fans were in charge of this team, dude, I'm going to say it. I'm sorry. We would be fucked.
We wouldn't have LaFleur. We wouldn't have Goody. We wouldn't have Love.
Yeah.
Rodgers would have been traded 9 years ago.
My only thing with Brandon Staley is the reason I kind of don't want to go that route is I feel like it's only LaFleur hiring people he's comfortable with instead of looking and maybe stepping outside his comfort zone a little bit and finding someone else that can really like get in here and change some things. And for me, I don't think we need to hire someone until all the head coach positions are filled.
I agree.
Because if someone like, I'm not saying that he'll come to Green Bay, but if someone like Mike Vrabel does not get a job and he's like, no, I want to stay coaching, I want to stay in the NFL, I don't want to do this year off crap. And he's like, you know what? I know LaFleur. Why don't I go up there? Fired. It kind of reminds me of look what Minnesota got with Brian Flores. Brian Flores should have been a head coach last year.
Yeah,
he should have been a head coach last year.
I agree.
He stepped in and he completely turned that defense around. Like, so if
without some really good players.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's two head coaching jobs left, you got to imagine Bill Belichick's getting one of those. I'd be shocked if he didn't.
It sounds like he might not.
Well, yeah, it sounds like he put all his eggs in the Atlanta basket, but then Atlanta was, they just hired someone too. So,
but they didn't want to give him GM powers like he had in New England.
Yeah, that's the problem he's probably running into. But I'm just saying, like, you kind of hold off a little bit. And, there's a linebacker coach that a lot of people like out of the Ravens. I'm just saying, I feel like for me, LaFleur needs to take a step out of his comfort zone at this point and hire someone he's not a friend with. It's not a buddy. It's not like kind of Jake just said, we're not in a business of relationships. We're in a business of results. And the fact that coaching tree has been getting kind of torched a little bit lately with the defensive coordinators, like the Vic Fangio coaching tree and stuff like that, out of your comfort zone.
That's hilarious to me that Vic Fangio got fired and a bunch of people immediately were like, we should hire him.
Yeah.
It's like, that's where Joe Barry came from, right?
Like, so my thing is, the reason I wouldn't like the Staley hire, and maybe he turns out, maybe he's great and he did great things with the Rams or whatever.
Right.
But I feel like it's just that, we need to find the people that are starting to, how we were kind of like on the offensive trend and people are still like, we kind of stole some stuff from Miami and we're kind of ahead of the ball game on what we're trying to do with offense and people want to be like us. We need to find that next like round of these young DCs that are going to kind of bring a new look into the coordinators. And for me, if you hire Staley, he's just hiring someone he's comfortable with.
Can I give you the best of both worlds, in my opinion?
Sure.
The Packers have done 4 interviews, and we are probably going to dedicate an episode to this. But Christian Parker, the Denver secondary coach, the Denver secondary is fucking ridiculous. It's so good. He was a quality control coach in Green Bay in 2019 and 2020. So there's familiarity and performance there. So far, out of the 4 guys that the Packers have interviewed, he is easily my top choice right now.
For me, I would like to see it prove a little bit more, but I get it. He's young or whatever, but also there's a lot of talent in that secondary. Let's not pretend like that's not true too.
Oh, I know. And Patrick Surtain is easily one of the best corners
top 5 cornerbacks in the league. People just don't talk about him because Denver hasn't been good, right?
He's one of those guys you don't hear his name because he's never thrown at.
Exactly. So, but I kind of like the fact that we already have all these, like, keep casting that net. No, if we shouldn't be worried, like, oh no, someone took
interview 20 people. I don't care.
Yeah.
Jake and I talk about this with the Bucks too. Is you can interview all these players or coaches. And when Jake and I talked about this, I said this to somebody too on another comment thread. But by bringing in football minds that don't currently coach your team, you can get insights on what other people think would be the best way to maximize your talent. So even though you might not hire the first 4 guys that you've interviewed, those 4 guys might all have I think you could use this guy to do this. Or if I was your DC, I would do this. And you might be able to take, bits and pieces from that and incorporate it all into your defensive scheme next year.
And I talk about this too. Like, I've talked about this at work. Like, yeah, it's great to hire someone with experience, but sometimes it's nice to bring someone in that doesn't have the same experiences because they won't make the same mistakes. And if we bring someone in with a different perspective, a different mindset, a different way of looking at it, they might look at all those real good players that we have and be like, hey, you know what? We had a player similar, like if we want to use, for example, the linebacker coach that everyone likes out of Baltimore. Mm-hmm. We all thought Patrick Queen was going to be a bust. All of a sudden, Patrick Queen has turned into one of the better linebackers in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Who do we have that's very similar to Patrick Queen that would completely if Walker turns into someone like that, having that kind of person in the middle of the field completely changes the defense. And I think he can get there. He's so close, I feel like, but he's just missing something. And if we can get the right coach to unlock that,
I can tell you who it's not going to be.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Clay Matthews. People got to stop doing this. My dad said use the word wild. The wild rumors of Clay Matthews, stresses wild in that question. This is not happening. Clay Matthews is a great defensive player. That does not make him a defensive coordinator.
The Al Harris thing too. Like, get out of here with that.
Thank you.
Dude, I was saying that right after the Dallas game. Everybody's like, fire Joe Barry or hire Harris. I'm like, why would we hire him? We just torched his ass.
Nope. He has an all-pro, and a former all-pro, and we beat the shit out of their secondary.
Where has Clay Matthews been coaching the last several years to even be nowhere? What's he even doing right now? I don't know. Maybe he is coaching.
Secondary coach.
Clay Matthews?
No, Clay Matthews.
Oh, Clay Matthews? Oh.
Nothing.
I don't know.
Eating spinach somewhere, growing his hair out, and then now he's supposed to come in and be a defensive coordinator. Get out of here.
Yeah,
probably rewatching the 2011 Super Bowl.
He'll pull his damn hamstring running to yell at a player.
Hey, chill out.
Put him up in the press box. That solves that problem. Barry said off topic. How about the Badgers right now? 71-59. It's because I got my Beat Michigan State button on.
Yeah,
all right. I'm going to touch on the tackling really quick. Jake already brought up the 7 missed tackles in the running game. There were also 8 missed tackles in the passing game for a total of 15 missed tackles. That's really tough to digest. And it goes to the 49ers credit. That is one of the things that they're best at. Yeah. And it correlates with the Packers defense. I harped on it all year that tackling goes, as the tackling goes, so goes the defense.
Yep.
So that's how I feel about that. Barry said Jim Leonard is not the guy. He's going to want to stay in college somewhere. I think he's still holding out for a head coaching job in college, in my opinion.
I think he wants to stay in college too.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him in for an interview, but yeah, personally, I think he wants to stay in college as a potential head coach.
I think they should.
My dad asked, is Fritz Shermer still alive? Couldn't tell you, but if his name is Fritz, I'm going to guess no.
Also, another one that they can go fly a kite with would be Rex Ryan. No interest in that.
Fritz sounds like a name definitely born in the 1940s. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would have no interest in Rex Ryan either. So.
Jake, did we answer your question?
No, I was going to ask you guys since Bryant brought it up about maybe Mike Vrabel. How do you guys feel about this? What if Vrabel and Belichick are just sitting there? All the head coaching jobs are filled. What if they're both sitting there? Who are you picking?
Both of them. Bring them both on. Fire Bisaccia. Get his ass out of here.
I was going to say, the thing about Belichick is he can coach the special teams too.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. How about they hire Jake? I'm on board, baby. I'm quitting tomorrow. Let's go.
Dad, no. Fritz Shermer is not still alive. He died August 30th, 1999.
Jesus,
he's very much not
alive. He didn't
alive.
even make it to the new millennium.
He probably did that on purpose. He probably didn't even want to deal with it. He's probably just like, nah.
We're scared of Y2K.
Yeah.
No, he watched too many Simpsons episodes, man.
One other guy that I'll throw out there if we're looking at the head coaches who might not get another job but could be candidates for defensive coordinator is I'll throw Ron Rivera's name out there.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in doing more research on him, but we'll talk about that when we get into some of our offseason topics. But Bryant, how did the red zone defense do?
Not like they had one opportunity and they in the most critical point in the game and they didn't stop them. And that was pretty much the entire story. I'll let you talk about your coaching before I say my piece on that last drive, my full piece, because I don't want to get, ahead of you or whatever. But in the red zone, there was like never a sense that they were going to stop them. So.
I'll just say my main thing on Barry, the only thing that I really wrote down about him was thanks for being better over the last 4 games and good luck.
Yeah. So then what I want to talk about on that last drive is I felt like it was the worst. Like he went back into his own things. Yeah, he wasn't completely playing off, but they were playing passive. They put pressure only on one of those plays in that entire drive. So what's the worst case? What's worse? Letting them, playing aggressive and they beat us over the top or something, or playing passive, they take 5.5 minutes off the clock and they score anyway. Why you cannot be, you have to be the aggressor in that situation. And he took a step back and we watched him go all the way down the field on us. On top of that, take 5.5, 6 minutes or whatever it was off the clock. And then next thing you know, we have a kicker who can't, Jordan Love probably doesn't, he forces that bad throw by him. But, in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking, I got to score a touchdown here if we want to win. So he's probably trying to force something. And then we have 50-something seconds left on top of that. Because
it was a 5-minute and 11-yard drive.
Yeah.
Or 5 minute and 11 seconds.
I would have much rather them score in 2.5 minutes and us completely control the clock towards the end of the game and do what we needed to do in that situation instead of letting them do what they did.
You want a little bit of salt in the wound on that drive?
Not really, but go for it.
It was a 69-yard drive.
Perfect.
Those son of a bitches.
Barry, yes, the Chicago Bears did interview Joe Barry for their defensive coordinator position. Unless you think they didn't, in which case they didn't, even if I show you that they did. Because that's apparently the way the internet works, is that sources are LOL sources. So yeah. Jake, how did the third down defense do?
I'm going to be honest. It was really hard for me to write down the stats for the third down defense because it makes me want to puke. It was terrible. If you include the Cowboys game, and I'm going to get into more context in a sec here. If you include the Cowboys game in this playoffs, the Packers allowed 20 of 32. That is 62%. You are not winning a Super Bowl giving up 62% of third downs. That's just uncalled for. And
I gotta wonder how many of them were in the Cowboys game, but
10. The last 2 weeks it was 10 of 16, 10 of 16.
Oh, both times? Okay.
Yeah. So it was easy.
Cowboys one I can explain away a little bit easier because they were just
right.
A lot of them, but
and I get that.
In a close game, it hurts more, in my opinion.
I think the third down defense now if you look at the offense, why it's been doing so good is the Packers were being really successful on first downs.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were being really successful on second downs and not putting themselves in shitty positions.
Yep.
This is where I 100% agree with Bryant on his assessment of Barry. You have to be the aggressor. And I have talked about this so many times in my life that I should start getting paid for this, honestly. How in the hell do you whoop somebody's ass for 50 minutes and then you're just like, we could go to the NFC Championship game and play the Lions, who we just owned. But you know what? I would rather just walk around with my hands in my pockets. Bro, go get this son of a bitch. He tried to give you the ball how many times already? Get his ass. Why are we just waiting around, letting him sit there and pick out throwing at Carrington Valentine, throw it at Nixon, throw it at our safeties who were terrible in this game? Why are we allowing this? Go get this guy. This guy's 5'11" and it's raining like a motherfucking monsoon. Attack him. I'm so sick and tired of this shit. It's ridiculous, man. Oh, I was getting so pissed in that last drive, dude. I really almost didn't want to come on the live after the game because I was fuming. Now,
Packers blitzed on 28% of plays.
That's not enough.
One time on that final drive.
The way that Purdy looked, and yes, he made a really, I'm going to give him credit on one throw. That first third down they had to pick up on that final drive was a freaking great throw. That was a great throw. But you're just letting them sit back there, drop back. Oh.
So here, let me give you
time in this game. Hold on.
Okay.
This guy had enough time in this game to take a fucking snap and wipe his hand off and grab the ball again. Are you serious? No, that's not happening anymore. The next DC that comes in here better have a giant sack because I'm sick and tired of this.
So the difference here that I'm looking at with the pressure. So when Purdy was blitzed, he was 7 for 12, 58%. When he was not blitzed, he was 16 of 27, 59%. So there's only a 1% difference there. However,
missing throws in the rain.
However, looking at under pressure versus when he was kept clean, when he was kept clean, he was 16 of 23 for a 69.6% completion percentage. When he was under pressure, he was 7 for 16, 43.8%. Devontae Wyatt was right.
You got to blitz him every damn play that last
round. Devontae Wyatt was right. When he's under pressure, he was not good. He was bad under pressure.
I cannot believe I was watching that drive. And after they picked up that first third down, my heart sank into my stomach because I was just like,
you knew what was coming.
I was like, dude, we are gonna lose. This is
We've
gonna
seen
hurt.
this same thing too many times.
I was like, oh my God, bro, are you serious right now? Like I wasn't mad at anybody. I was really just sad that the season ended. And I said that last week. I was having so much fun with this team. And I said this last week too, but you know, this team, we needed this team in this state. We really did. We've had championship expectations with the Bucks, with the Packers, with the Brewers to a certain extent. The Badgers were going through kind of flux with basketball over the last couple of years where people were kind of getting on. And we had some weird years with Badgers football. But with all the stuff that happened with Rodgers and Devontae and a lot of the shitty losses that we dealt with, this young team that just loved each other. And this is what it felt like watching the Bucks when they were coming up, man. And this is why a lot of people really fell in love with them, because you could tell they loved being around each other. They're dancing, they're clowning. They were best friends, like legit. And that's how you started to feel about this Packers team, man. Like these guys are actually friends outside of football. They're not just coworkers.
They're gonna work together in the offseason. It's not gonna be like everybody goes their separate ways.
It was fun to not know what to expect because of Rodgers. Like you're just like, pencil this guy in for 3 touchdowns, right? Pencil Devontae in for 15 targets, right? Like that's all great and dandy, but we didn't know what to expect, and that is a lot of fun. I had a fantastic time this year, even through the lows. It was like they'll learn from that, and I feel that way about this game too. But
well, yeah, and to put our optimistic spin on it, you know what I mean? I'm super excited. Like I feel bad. I kind of said this to you guys. I'm not happy that Barry got fired because Barry getting fired means that we failed, right? Our team failed. We didn't get where we wanted to. However, with looking at it, I feel like Matt LaFleur maybe a little bit of a light switch because he comes out and says this is no longer we're a young excuse. Like we exceeded expectations this year. Guess what? Now our expectations next year is this and beyond. So this is an expectation that we're in the divisional round or more next year now. And we're bringing, to put the optimistic spin on it, we're going to get a new DC in here. We might breathe new blood into this. We have a very young, ready, hungry offense, and I feel like a light really kind of switched from LaFleur. Like he's like, okay, I'm done playing now. They made a change at DC. They're making a change at strength and conditioning coach. They brought in competition immediately for Carlson instead of just letting him sit and think he's had the job. And I'm not saying he would have been lazy all summer. He probably had to know that there's going to be competition. But for me, it's breathing a lot into what we're going to look at next year. And honestly, I'm so excited about our offense. Don't be surprised if we do pick 5 players in the top 100. I wouldn't be surprised if 4 of them were defense again.
I'll say at least 3. Yeah.
So because of what we need to rebuild there, we need a CB, we need safeties for sure, we need a linebacker, and then really on offense, I think we just need depth at O-line, and a young running back. But I'm excited about Wilson as well. So there's a lot to be excited about for this team, and they need to not be like, okay, we exceeded expectations, so let's just meet expectations next year. Next year, they need to exceed expectations, and their exceeding expectations for next year could very well be making it to the Super Bowl.
I think their expectation is gonna need to be a higher seed in the playoffs.
Yeah,
which potentially means competing with Detroit as early as next year for the NFC North. Yeah. But we'll get into stuff like that in the offseason. What I want to say on the coaching is first, to touch on Barry again. I get wanting a new philosophy, scheme, a new face, a new thought process. It is still a little weird to me, and it still rubs me the wrong way that people are celebrating that a man has now lost his job.
Yeah,
that aspect of it is still a little weird, and people being like, "Oh, don't let the door hit you on the way out" and stuff like that. Like that still rubs me the wrong way a little bit, but. Welcome, Simon. I will say on the coaching aspect of it, and Jake already mentioned it with Matt LaFleur, is there's optimism, there's a light switch, and I think, Matt LaFleur is never going to say this, and this is pure speculation on my part, which I usually try to avoid. But if he's not proving it to himself, he proved it to a lot of other people, is that Matt LaFleur was not made by Aaron Rodgers.
Facts.
He proved that without a shadow of a doubt this season, that he was not made by Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur is a good coach. Barry said, "You never forget the moment when the strength and conditioning coach came to the game 9/11 running out with the flag." And yeah, that's tough stuff.
I actually have a cool story about the strength and conditioning coach. Sad that he lost his job, but this guy I work with, his daughter plays soccer with the strength and conditioning coach's daughter. They're the same age. So he actually got to talk to that guy all the time. He would see him once a week. And he asked his daughter, was so-and-so at practice this week? And she was like, yeah. He was like, oh, okay. Well, we'll see if she's there next week.
All right. So on the coaching, I've already mentioned for Joe Barry, good luck. If the Packers are interested in bringing him back as a linebackers coach strictly, I would be okay with it. There's no denying whatever you think about Joe Barry as a defensive coordinator. There is no denying. There is tons of factual evidence that Joe Barry is a good linebacker coach. If he doesn't get a defensive coordinator position, he is going to get hired as a linebacker coach. I guarantee it.
Wasn't he the linebacker? No, he had been with us already. He had left the Rams before Staley was the DC the 1 year.
Right. Yeah, that was his first year as the DC was Barry's first year in Green Bay. Yeah. Cody said, great coach if he play caller. That's totally fair. And we've talked about this. Some guys are made to be coordinators, not head coaches. Some guys are made to be assistants and not coordinators. And that's where Joe Barry's road stops, in my opinion. Now, he's already actually interviewed for several linebackers coaches positions, including with the Eagles. Now, on to Rich Bisaccia. I don't think it's a guarantee that he's back. I think he's probably back. But he's another guy who's going to be potentially on the warm seat. I don't know that I'll go as far as say hot seat, but his seat's going to be a little warm next year. Bryant talked about the special teams needing to improve. Rich Bisaccia has had some questionable decisions at times, like sticking with Amari Rogers and putting Samari Toure back on a punt return after Keyshawn Nixon got hurt instead of using Jaden Reed. And the improvement has been light. It hasn't been top paid special teams coach in the NFL level improvement. And then Adam Stenavich, I gave him credit last week. He deserves it. Still glad that he got the promotion from the offensive line coach to the offensive coordinator position, because I do really believe that his knowledge of offensive line has helped Jordan Love for shifting protections and things like that.
Dude, that line, our line was so underappreciated this year. Like,
absolutely.
Did they give up a sack in the playoffs? I don't think we did we?
I feel like
I don't know. We have the offensive line guy in here now.
49ers had one, I thought.
Did they have one?
No, they didn't. The offensive line didn't give up a sack versus the 49ers.
Did we give them maybe one against Dallas?
Hold on 1 second. Let me go back.
Barry, I don't know that Stenavich is going to be ready to be calling plays, but if you just have him as helping out the offense with the old line, yeah.
I don't think LaFleur will give up play call.
Yeah.
No sacks versus Dallas.
The offensive guy.
Yeah, I don't do that.
So this offensive line went 2 games against 2 of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, all pros all over the place, giving up 0 sacks. And that's with Zach Tom going out with a concussion.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say about Matt LaFleur, as far as the 49ers game specifically is concerned, I don't really have any specific complaints. I think their game plan was solid, and like I said, I think they were the better team for about 53 minutes. But having experience does matter at the end of a close game. The Packers had their first playoff experience this year with all of their young guys, and they were the youngest team to ever make the playoffs since they started tracking age in 1970.
And the only number 7 seed to ever win in the playoffs.
Exactly. And that is exactly where we wanted our young guys to get playoff experience, to learn from it, to not panic when you're down late in a playoff game, especially to a team you were favored to beat by 10. And that's what San Francisco did. They didn't panic when they were down to the Packers. They trusted their experience, they trusted their execution, and they ended up winning by 3. That's why I don't play the quote-unquote should game when it comes to the playoffs. You know, there's so many things that can happen in a playoff game. We brought up the refs, we brought up the weather, we brought up the missed field goals, we brought up missed opportunities for turnovers. All of that stuff can happen, and it's win and you go home. Win or you go home. So it's the playoffs. No team is going to stop trying to win. Even the Cowboys, which were getting their asses beat, they were still trying to score points. You know, there's no we'll regroup and get them next week, and there's no guarantees in the playoffs. However, the Packers now have not 1, but 2 games of playoff experience. We were hoping for 1. We were hoping for 1 game of Love and the boys to be playing a playoff game together and, you know, get a little bit of playoff experience, get a taste of what the playoff is like. And then they beat the shit out of the 2 seed. And they
literally had the 1 seed on the ropes. They were on the ropes. Like, we had them. And we just didn't execute.
And if the 4 of us can come here and tell you that, the team certainly knows that. And they're going to know, and they're going to be hungry for it. And they're going to be better for it. And I think Matt LaFleur is going to stress that to them, and he already has with his comments about expectations.
Yeah, he already set the standard.
Yeah.
You know,
so I'm excited to see how everybody's coming into the season when we get into the summertime and we start talking about guys coming in for OTAs and training camps and all that. So Barry said at least it was a close game, and they beat the 3 seed right before the playoffs with the Lions. So, I mean, I really don't know how you can be anything but optimistic as far as this season went. So, Simon, you are the newcomer, seeing as you're building all the igloos and keeping us safe from Russia. How did you feel about Jordan Love at the end of this game and just, at the end of year 1?
I mean, totally, or just for this game?
This game.
I'll start with this game.
I'll start with this. We'll probably give Jordan Love his own episode.
He had he had an okay game overall. I thought, as good as the offensive line was this week, I thought they let up a lot of pressures, and for good reason. I mean, hats off to San Francisco. They have one of the best front sevens in the league. And
I'll come out and say it's the best. I have no problem saying.
Yeah.
Their D-line
I'll even say that. But I mean, what's
Baltimore's is pretty good, but
Baltimore's
San Francisco's D-line adding Chase Young, stupid.
Yeah, they're so deep at that level, and they showed it during the game. But I thought the offensive line hung up okay. But I thought Jordan Love looked okay. I thought, honestly, this is probably his worst game since the Giants game, and it wasn't even that bad. It really wasn't even that bad. Outside, I mean, the last final throw, I think everyone can agree he should have thrown it away and tried to live for another down. Right. But he kind of felt the pressure a little bit and threw it. He did the thing you're not supposed to do, throw across your body in the middle of the field late. And I after seeing Jordan Love this year, he's gonna learn from that. I truly believe that going into next year, that's not something that he feels like he's gonna have to do again, especially with the time given. But outside of that, I thought things were pretty clean for most of the game. He looked a little off on a couple of his throws, especially that first interception. I thought that was the first time I was like, wow, he looked like way off. Threw behind the guy, kind of tipped it up in the air, and that was their ball. So that one was definitely kind of on him. But yeah, overall, not the worst game, but definitely not the best.
I mean, we had 5 consecutive weeks of work. I feel like this is Jordan Love's best game. I feel like this is Jordan Love's best game. I feel like this is his best game. That bubble was bound to burst at some point. But, if we talk about it as a whole, I think
also, I know you guys already talked about this, but I want to go back. Keep Aaron Jones.
Oh yeah.
Keep Aaron Jones.
Okay,
whatever
so we're
it
all
takes.
on the same.
What an absolute monster last 5 games of the season. Just disgusting.
Yeah.
Bryant, how do you feel about Jordan Love?
Yeah, Simon hit most of it. Talking about that throw to Tucker Kraft. Yeah, he, aside from the last of the game, there's 2 throws I think he really wants back. The one to Tucker Kraft. Now that takes a little bit on luck on the Packer side too, because if Tucker Kraft doesn't reach back and tip that, it just goes to the ground. You know what I mean? If it doesn't hold up in the air, it's maybe the DB makes a great diving interception there, but it's a lot harder completion. And then the one throw to Aaron Jones to complete that. I don't know if that he expected Aaron Jones to sit down there or what but you want to, for one, I can't remember if that's the play. I thought he maybe could have ran for it, but either way, those 2 plays, if he completes one of those 2 passes, unfortunately, we might be talking about it. We might be doing a preview right now. You know what I mean? So really, those 2 throws I think are ones he really wants back. He's got to learn from that last throw. He made a few of those this year. In the area like Denver, he was trying to make something happen, but we only need another 10, 15 yards to get into field goal range. Now we don't know how that would have played out. But
there was a penalty before that one too, which I still
we didn't need to force that one. So he's definitely got to go back and be critical of himself with those, and I have no doubt that he will do that, and he'll criticize himself and learn from that. And LaFleur will talk. He
mentioned it in the post game,
so he'll learn from that. But other than those 2 throws, I feel like he played a good game against one of the best defenses in crappy weather. In a huge matchup
on the road.
He deserved what he's going to get this year, and I feel very comfortable going in next year. And I feel like we're going to be in a good position. I feel like our ceiling needs to be like this position. Our floor, needs to be pretty much this position. And hopefully we hit on the draft and some of these guys develop. Just think about it. Our highest draft pick, you could say maybe had the most disappointing season out of the top 5 or 4 or 5 picks or whatever. I wouldn't even call it season disappointing. He still had 4 sacks and a sack in the playoffs. So
and he got better throughout the entire season.
Exactly. So if those guys continue to improve, we're cooking with gas a little bit. We need to do something in these next couple of years, I think, before we have to start paying some of these guys, because that's the cycle in the NFL, right? But I'm pretty excited. And overall, fine game. You want the Tucker Kraft pass interception back, because that was such a huge role or spot in that. But if that doesn't happen, you never know where the game leads. But overall, his first playoff experience, he went 1-1, had 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions,
against the 1 and the 2 seed.
Yeah, exactly. So
So I'm going to say this. The fact that people were saying that Jordan Love choked is so fucking dumb. So dumb. He is the 7 seed on the road in a second round playoff game. He wasn't expected to be in this position to win or even to be this far in the playoffs. And the bottom line is, we can be real about it. We are not in this position without him.
Yeah.
We've talked about it. If the MVP was a second half of the season award, Jordan Love would be the MVP.
It probably would be, yeah.
He also put his team in position for a 41-yard field goal to, at minimum, take this team to overtime.
Right.
Like,
and
so to say he choked because it happened on the last drive, well, he had the ball last, so he choked. It's just
that's dumb. It's
dumb.
I will say San Francisco's defensive line, this is something when I talked about the passing game distribution. San Francisco's defensive line being absolutely stacked allowed them to get pressure while only blitzing on 5.7% of plays.
They play a lot of zone.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is I don't think it's going to be like, oh, San Francisco found the blueprint to stopping Jordan Love, because very, very few teams have a defensive line remotely close to as good as San Francisco's is. I mean, you're talking San Francisco and Baltimore as the top tier, and then there's a big ass drop off. So
yeah, and with that mindset, they'd be basically like, oh, if we make him make tight window throws, he can't do that. He's literally proved that he can do that. So
right.
If you're just going to let him sit back and just sit there all day, and majority of the games you're not going to be in this crappy type of weather, okay, sure, try that. Go for it.
And against not as good defensive lines, Jordan Love will have time to throw. And if you're going to be dropping that many guys into coverage, if the offensive line's protection is there, that's when he'll run.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to help us turn Jordan Love into Lamar Jackson light, I'm okay with it. Jordan Love for 2024 MVP. Anyways, I'll say is the biggest difference for me with Jordan Love going from the Dallas game to the San Francisco game was the middle of the field. Jordan Love struggled in the middle of the field against San Francisco, where he absolutely murdered Dallas. Destroyed Dallas in the middle of the field. But San Francisco is the best team in the NFL at defending the middle of the field. And that is credit to their two linebackers, Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. And Fred Warner is, we've talked about it, probably the best linebacker in the NFL.
He is.
He is, yeah.
So this is something where maybe Jordan Love can work with the wide receivers in the offseason on working the sidelines against teams that are really good coverage with middle linebackers and safeties. So, and I'm not saying we need to go the Aaron Rodgers route of only going to the sidelines, but just work on the capability of being able to go down the sidelines. And maybe that's where, Jordan Love and Romeo Doubs can work on some chemistry and work on some back shoulder stuff, just to not necessarily force to go into that, but to have it in the bag ready for you when you need it. So that's my difference. Cody said up until the week before Christmas, they had us picking in the top 10. Yeah, that's fair. Jake, how do you feel about Jordan Love?
For one, we got our guy, right? That was the point of the year, right?
Yep.
I know you said in the second round of the playoffs, but I want to add something in there about the choking thing. It was his second ever playoff game.
Yep.
So, I mean, for you to say that he choked, I want to see you go to your job, because everybody likes to compare their jobs to sports players.
Yeah.
I want to see you go to your job and do the hardest job with no supervision and see if you don't get your damn hand cut off or break something, okay? Because you're probably going to do that. Secondly, the thing that's different, I'm gonna play off you, Tyler, real quick. The thing that's way different about owning the middle of the field is the Cowboys played a lot of man, and the Packers have a lot of man beaters. Okay, they have a lot of plays that they can call, a lot of doubles, a lot of rub routes.
Yep.
The 49ers play a lot of zone. You know what would have really helped? Bryant's gonna really like this. Could have probably ran the fucking ball a little bit more. That helps you against his own defense. and then worked in the play action, I mean, that would have been nice. I mean, you have 2 tight ends. You drafted 2 tight ends for a reason. And you got to use those guys in the middle of the field, even if it's just, 4-yard routes. You got to use them. Create a level.
Andrew said he's the Jordan Love of his job for sure.
You're the Jordan Love of your job for sure. You're throwing late. Yeah, you're the throwing late across the middle, Jordan Love, huh? I'm just kidding.
To your point, Jake, and we said it going in, San Francisco is like the worst or the second worst team in the NFL against outside runs.
They are. And the reasoning for that is because they cover the middle of the field with their linebackers. So those guys are not in position to guard that stuff. But they are very bullish on what they like to run. So yeah, this is a horrible comparison, but I say the same thing when I play people on Madden, man. Like, people are not patient enough to go down the field the whole game and just dink and dunk. People will try to force the ball down the middle. They'll try to throw it deep because that's what's cool, right? And I feel like a lot of young quarterbacks get impatient in the NFL too, where the 49ers are like, listen, we're gonna give you this, okay? You can have this outside run, but you're not getting this. This is ours.
You know, the 2 guys that come to mind when you talk about dinking and dunking, and it took them to great success.
Drew
Brees.
Yep, that's one.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady's the other one.
Well, I will say this. Brett Favre was pretty good at it too when he had Amon Green. Brett Favre and Amon Green were really good at that.
I mean, like, whole career. Brady and Brees were dinkers and dunkers their whole careers.
I know, but I mean, if you think, Amon Green had a lot of catches.
I hear you.
He used to throw to William Henderson all the time too. Peyton Manning was pretty good at it.
Manning. I mean, Peyton Manning had Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison, so he didn't have to worry
when you think about all the great quarterbacks, they understand where their guys are at. Yep. So if they have to take that check down, that, to me, that's the next level for Jordan.
Denver,
getting the offensive line protection,
willing to dink and dunk.
He has to, and I love that he's not afraid, because we wanted part of Favre and part of Rodgers, right? We really did.
Yep.
I don't want this part of Favre.
Yeah.
You can leave that one in San Francisco, buddy.
Yeah.
Leave that one there. But the next level for him is just understanding, like, okay, listen, this play sucks. They called a good play. I'm going to take my 2 yards. I'm going to get my ass down, and we're going to go on to second down. That's the next level for him.
Run out of bounds and stick the ball out.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Nick Bosa did like a perfect job right there. He chased him at a perfect angle, and he had him lined up. Love wasn't going anywhere. The only thing Love was going to do is throw that away, which he should have done. But try to be a playmaker, man. And you know that they say shoot or shoot, right?
Yeah. Take your shots. All right. So we're going to wrap this up. We have some off-season topics planned. We're going to do free agency. We'll probably do some offense and defense evaluation, positions of need for the draft. That's going to be a big one. Defensive coordinators, Jordan Love evaluation, and then obviously we'll do tons and tons of draft prep like we usually do as we come through, with when we're going to do these things and have them all nailed down. We'll obviously put the announcements out there for that. So stay tuned with us. Our off-season stuff is just going to kick up, and we do tons and tons of stuff with the draft. So if you have friends that are not Packers fans, they can still enjoy this whole part of the off-season content. We have a lot of actually non-Packers fans who do come and watch the show for the draft content. We have Lions fans, Saints fans, but even Vikings fans that come and watch just to learn stuff about the draft because we cover it so much. So stay tuned for that. We'll announce it when we have some dates locked down. Other than that, thank you everybody who came and watched us all season and commented along all season and watched our post-game shows and pre-games and previews and all of our recaps and everything that we've done throughout the season, all of our play breakdowns. Thank you for everybody. The 2023 Packers season was a fun one for sure, and we're looking forward to 2024.
Go Pack, go, baby.
Go Pack, go.
Go.